Hi, I'm Perry, and you're listening to The Beauty Brain. Hello and welcome to The Beauty Brains, a show where real cosmetic chemists answer your beauty product questions and give you an insider's look at the cosmetic industry. This is episode 401. I'm your host, Perry Romanowski, and with me today is Valerie George. Hello, Valerie.
Hi, Perry.
Valerie, it's a little warm out here today, isn't it?
Well, I think whether you're in Chicago or Dallas, it is blazing.
Speaking of blazing, that's what we have on our show, Blazing Questions, and we're going to cover a lot, including how do you know if a product is providing heat protection? What kind of damage can high-force air do to wet hair? What makes a facial mask work amazingly? What is really important when using a sunscreen? And do those red light masks really spur collagen growth? But first, some chit-chat. Valerie, I was just talking about the heat here, right? And before the podcast, I went for a run.
I thought you just freshly showered because your hair looks kind of wet.
No, I am drenched.
I was like, Perry's so ready this morning. I can't believe he's already run, he's showered, and no, he's just a sweaty mess.
No, yeah, it's but you know, I get this way in the winter too, but in the summer it's doubly. But this is what happened. I get done with my run, and little Dreamsicle sees me. He was on someone else's porch, and he sees me, and he comes prancing up, and he walks alongside me to my house, meowing and rubbing on my legs. And then I walk onto my porch, and I sit down to drip dry because I didn't want to get all sweaty inside my house. So I drip dry out there. And little Dreamsicle, he jumps up on the couch, and, you know, I'm petting him and such. But then he sheds. And now I got all this cat fur sticking to my sweaty body, and I still feel the cat fur all over me.
Oh my goodness. And your poor wife is allergic. Hopefully that doesn't bother her. Hopefully she doesn't even come near you.
Right. I will have to shower. You know, but it does, you know, when I go for runs and stuff, I get all sweaty. Like, how do you manage sweat? Because I can't even go in my house because I'm just like dripping all over the place.
Well, I'm not a big sweater, so I don't have this problem. If I were to go for a run, I mean, yeah, I would perspire a little bit around my hairline. I have a lot of hair, so it gets very hot.
Sure.
But I generally am just not a sweater, except for, lately with all the hot flashes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
How fun is that?
It's no good. I don't like this, foreshadowing of menopause.
Sure. Well, my strategy is I just have to sit outside my house and drip dry and it takes like 15 minutes, and then I'm dry enough to go in the house.
I probably would, take my shirt off and have like a hand towel and dry off before I go in.
Yeah, that works, but then it all just comes back. Like sometimes I'll take a shower, I'll towel off, and then I'll just exude water for another 5 minutes.
Oh,
So
wow.
I know, I'm weird. I have this whole weird system here.
Very interesting.
All right. Well, you have anything else going on there? I mean, we got what? We're just a little over a week out, huh?
Yeah, nope, just hanging out. Families coming into town, getting ready for them, getting the, room ready. We're not prepared. So, just getting the final touches in place, but more importantly, getting work in a good space. So I'm not worried about that.
That's good. All right, well, why don't we head on over to Beauty News? There really isn't much going on in the summertime, is there?
No, it's always, kind of quiet articles, even LinkedIn I've been pinking in on, and not much.
Yeah. Well, I saw this one in Nouveau magazine. It's probably clickbaity stuff, but it's the next wave in Buzzy skincare ingredients. So I thought we'd go through those and see what do you think of these Buzzy ingredients?
Okay.
And are they even new? Okay, the first one here, exosomes. Boy, everybody's talking exosomes.
Oh, I'm sick of it. So a couple years ago, I did a project for a dermatologist, and they had inquired about using exosomes in their product. And at the time, exosomes were only really commercially available from placenta.
Yeah.
And whether it's from humans, cows, it's generally just a no-no to use in products. But now you can get exosomes from plants, and that's primarily what we're seeing in skincare. And
Okay.
basically, they're phospholipid encapsulated messenger RNA, proteins, other materials that they excise from the plants. And they're able to penetrate the skin, albeit the stratum corneum and stratum granulosum, so outer layers of the skin, and provide different benefits to the skin. Now, they're naturally occurring in our body as well. It's how cells communicate with each other. Basically, little messenger RNA or microRNAs encapsulated in our body
Right.
by the Golgi apparatus, and then it, goes out and goes to other cells and tells the cells what to do. So it's native within our bodies, but topically, I don't know. I'm not sold. I think you get about the same benefit as a standardized extract.
Well, it also seems to be that isn't this just a fancier way to talk about liposomes or something? Because liposomes are kind of the same thing,
A
right?
very similar concept, except what's packaged inside is very different. Now, there are studies that show exosome efficacy, but it's either injected, it's not applied topically, and there's just
Right.
not a ton of data out there. So a lot of the exosomes are applied with microneedling to
Yeah.
facilitate penetration, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I suppose also if it did actually work the way it's sold, I mean, that would make it a drug and not a cosmetic. So there's all that.
Well, and the benefits are really the same as peptides. So,
Yeah.
with a peptide, which your body also recognizes because your body communicates by these small amino acid sequences. If they could penetrate, they pretty much stimulate collagen production, increase hydration in the skin, reduce the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. It's all this kind of generic stuff. All
Yeah.
the data behind exosomes is the same as well. So it's like, why wouldn't you just use a peptide?
Right. What new are we getting? I guess new, there's a new story. All right, here's another one. Polyglutamic acid, the old PGA. This isn't new, right? This is
Hasn't this been used? Wasn't this popular in the 90s?
yeah. So, I mean, or at least the early 2000s, but so
Well,
I mean,
humectant. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's fine. Of course, now they're saying in this article at least, polyglutamic acid binds 5 times the amount of water as hyaluronic acid, but we know hyaluronic acid binds 1,000 times the amount of glycerin
Right.
or whatever. I mean, it's just
so this is
crazy.
5,000 the time as glycerin. I mean,
I don't know. I feel like your skin can only get so much. So if you just had glycerin, hyaluronic acid, I think your skin's set. I don't think you need PGA.
I just don't think people would notice anything different here. Because, a humectant is a humectant is a humectant.
Exactly.
Like glycerin is a little stickier, so formulating with something like PGA is probably a little bit more elegant, but certainly more pricey. But from a consumer standpoint, I just don't see you getting much more.
No, not at all.
Oh, next one is bisabolol.
Bisabolol's been used for decades.
Oh boy!
So many
it's,
products have that. I don't even know if it's even worth seeking. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, especially if you have red skin or your skin needs to be soothed. But
It's an anti-inflammatory ingredient. I guess.
there's a lot of data behind it. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But I mean, next Buzzy ingredient. I think we're just out of stuff to talk about.
I know we're just going backwards here. Polyhydroxy acid.
Speaking of going backwards, these were popular 15 years ago, and everyone had a 5%, 10%, 20% PHA something or another. And
Right.
I just felt like they didn't catch on at the time. Maybe now timing is everything. I'm not really sure. But basically, they're much larger hydroxy acids of sorts. And so they don't penetrate the skin as much. Therefore, you tend to get less irritation, but they tend to work also less effectively. And they have more
Right.
humectant properties and exfoliating properties. So, I mean, it's a great option. But I feel like they've been out there. I feel like this article is just like, oh, we need another thing to talk about.
I know. Speaking of another thing, peptides.
We've talked about peptides a few episodes. I'd agree they're back in style. I feel like people didn't care about them as much.
Yeah.
Now they do. And what's interesting is they actually mention a bubble water slide hydration boosting serum as like a product with a peptide. That's a teen brand. Teens don't need
Oh.
peptides.
Yeah. I will say that of all these ingredients, I do think peptides are probably the most promising to be able to show some results. Because, I mean, ultimately our bodies are made up of peptides and proteins. And so it is what we're made of. And so it could interact with the biochemistry of the body. I will ignore the fact that that would be regulatorily wrong, but, it doesn't work or not. I think peptides have the most potential. I just haven't seen a lot of evidence that they work better than just a moisturizer in a way consumers would notice.
Well, I mean, they take a long time to pay off. It's
Right.
not just like a one-time use. You have to use them for weeks at a time. So you're exactly right.
And we got one more Buzzy ingredient, hypochlorous acid. Everybody wants to spray bleach on themselves, I guess.
This one's very interesting, and I'm surprised they're mentioning like the next wave of Buzzy ingredients, and this is one of them, because I feel like this is so 3 years ago already, and everyone's got one, and you have to have special manufacturing capabilities to even produce it. It's not like an ingredient that you add, and it decomposes so quickly. I wonder if, you're even getting the hypochlorous acid on your skin, but also it's clearly an antibacterial.
Yeah.
And so I'm just surprised the FDA is not coming down harder on brands for this.
Well, the regulations in the United States, at least for a while, are just sort of out the window.
Yeah, they're busy.
It seems,
busy doing
they're
other
busy.
stuff.
All right. All right. Well, those are the next Buzzy ingredients. We do not seem too buzzed about them.
No, is there an ingredient you would have put on there?
I think I would have put peptides on there. That's kind of the buzziest stuff. But as far as what's going to help consumers, I would stick with the standard moisturizers and sunscreens, and it's hard to do better than that.
Well, I would have put beef tallow on the list over a year ago. So it would have been for 2024. I predicted beef tallow and magnesium as really trending ingredients.
Sure.
Because in the DIY community, they've used beef tallow for a long time. They've used magnesium for a long time, and we're starting to see it hit mainstream beauty brands right now. Just starting. So I think I would have put beef tallow and magnesium.
Wow. Nobody's worried about mad cow disease anymore, apparently.
Does that even live in the tallow piece? I guess it could.
Yeah, their prions could get tied up in any of it. That's why the industry sort of got away from animal-derived ingredients.
And you have to get a BSc certificate when you formulate. Well, you should be requesting one at any rate.
BSc,
Spongiopathy.
Yeah, some prion disease.
We can't pronounce it, but it's basically, not good.
Encephalophany, I think, is bovine spongicide encephalopathy or something.
I don't think it's spongicide. I think it's spongio.
Yeah, no, it could be.
It's why we call it BSc, guys.
Right, the mad cow stuff. I had some point that I was going to make about that.
Well, look who has pregnancy brain now.
He does. Well, all right. I was gonna tell the story. Back in the 1970s, my mom would buy soap, and she would buy the generic soap. She would go to like Aldi's or whatever, and one time, our dog got into the soap and was eating the soap because the soap was made from tallow.
Wow.
So, there you go. So. If you don't have a fragrance that covers it, fragrance that covers it for people, but apparently dogs will eat soap.
Well, I have a little mad cow disease story since we're sharing. So I grew up in Germany, and in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, there was some kind of outbreak of mad cow disease in Europe. Yeah. And when I came back to the U.S. and I was eligible to donate blood, it actually turned out for a while I wasn't eligible because they were having this wait out period for people who could have been exposed to mad cow disease.
All right.
And so I had to wait out this period to be able to donate.
To ensure that you didn't have it.
Yeah. And it turns out I didn't, so that's good.
It's prions are very interesting, and if we were a show like This Podcast Will Kill You, we would cover it in depth, but go over to them to see.
What a great podcast. They're funny.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, speaking of great podcasts, how about some great questions?
Our first question comes to us from Lisa, a patron. Can a leave-in milk like Mizani 25 Miracle Milk take the place of using a separate heat-protecting product? I absolutely love this product as leave-in conditioner for my hair, but I'm a little skeptical if it provides enough heat protection for both blow drying and flat ironing the hair. I have naturally coily dry hair that I blow dry and flat iron on 415 Fahrenheit with a ceramic flat iron on a weekly basis. Thanks for all the valuable, unbiased information you provide on this podcast.
Well, you are welcome for that. I'm looking at the ingredients of this one. It's got coconut oil, fennel seed oil, and coconut oil is the second ingredient, but so is amodimethicone. So they make it full of silicones there. Polyquaternium 37, and conditioning ingredients. So it looks like a lot of standard conditioning ingredients, but extra oil.
Do you know what this looks like? A product I'm very familiar with from my prior life, and this brand ripped it off.
Oh,
yeah, good for them. Great product.
I think they said they emulated it.
They were inspired by it.
Sure,
Dupe culture.
Sure.
No, great. It looks like a great product. I can totally see why you would absolutely love this. But does it have heat protection? That's the big question. And I don't think it intentionally has heat protection. Now, you'll get some from amodimethicone, but there's not a lot in this product. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
So I would say if you are flat ironing the hair, I would use a supplemental heat protectant. If you were just blow drying, I would say it could be enough, because even a conditioner product that's left on will intrinsically provide a tiny bit of heat protection.
Sure.
But with flat ironing, I just think you got to add on something separate.
Yeah, like what ingredients should they have included if they wanted some really heat protection?
Well, I mean, amodimethicone does have a tiny bit, but there's other silicones that have heat protection. Polymers have heat protection.
Yeah.
So, for example, polyurethane 48, 14.
Yeah.
PVP obviously has heat protection, but that's like actually a styling polymer. So your hair would be conformed to a specific style. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess as far as things go, does it provide enough heat protection? Probably not on its own. So, try something more. Although, as long as you're using a conditioner afterwards, even if you get heat damage, I think a conditioner can cover up a lot of that damage.
Exactly. So, yeah, keep using the product. But when you're tempted to reach for your flat iron once a week, I would just pop a little spray on there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we have another question from a patron, Amanda. Hi, Perry and Valerie. I just got a Dyson Air Straight, and I've been loving it for showering at night and using it to dry my hair before bed. Doing research on TikTok,
Oh.
All right. Doing research on TikTok, some people complain of mechanical damage from Dyson hair appliances. What kind of damage can high force air do to wet hair, and how does it compare to the mechanical damage of blow drying wet hair with a brush? Will your average heat protectant provide that slip to the hair to protect against this mechanical damage? And then what's the best way to apply a heat protectant to hair? I use the Kenra Platinum Blow Dryer spray. I spritz my wet hair and comb it, and often wonder how well is the product protecting my hair and being distributed enough or that I'm using it. Thanks for the show. All right, a lot of questions here, but let's do the first one about the high force air to wet. So those Dyson ones, I know them when you go into like the bathrooms, the public bathrooms. They got the super speed ones, and you
Exactly.
shoot out a lot of hair. What's that doing to hair?
Well, it's basically taking air, their appliances. Now, you're not getting the same air strength as a hand dryer, but they're essentially forcing air through a very small space. So it's like very focused and high pressure on one area, and it's essentially physically displacing water from the hair and also improving the evaporation speed of water from the hair fiber. Traditional devices use heat to do that, so they rely on a hot tool basically to evaporate the hair using heat versus forced air, although a hair dryer would kind of use both. But what's interesting is people are complaining about mechanical damage from the appliances. So I don't know if that has to do with the forced.
I'm looking at it, and it's $250. Well, but
Well, where are you seeing it for $250? I'd like to know.
it's on Walmart.com. It's a restored premium Dyson air spray.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say they're like $500.
Oh, there you go. Okay, well, you can get a restored one on Walmart.com. But I'm looking at it, and it looks like a flat iron to me.
Exactly. They actually do have a flat iron that's cordless. We tested it once, and it was very heavy, very cumbersome to use. But this tool, instead of using traditional like ceramic plates that only emit heat,
Right.
air passes through them.
Oh, okay. So, interesting. So your hair is, I guess, theoretically just exposed to the air, although I suppose it clamps together at the
Exactly,
to get
and
the
the
fibers together, yeah.
pressure of you physically going down and straightening the hair fiber temporarily rearranges those hydrogen bonds as the hair
Gotcha.
dries. So it's a little bit of air, a little bit of pressure to reconform the hair fiber, tension, if you will.
I would have to say, this forced air seems like it would be less damaging than those the plates. The
I
ceramic
think
plates, yeah.
they're definitely less damaging than heat. Heat is very damaging for hair. So I know
Right.
it seems like, yeah, you're probably getting some mechanical damage from the physical manipulation of the hair fiber. But I would venture to guess, now I haven't seen any studies, and maybe I bet you Dyson probably has a couple studies. I would bet that it's less damaging than a traditional hot tool.
Well, I would bet if Dyson did the study, then yes, that's what you would find.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of a tool. We've been judges for the Allure Beauty Awards in the past, and I typically
Yeah.
do the hair ones. Perry's done the skin ones traditionally, or his wife has, I should say.
Well, she tries them. I evaluate them from the ingredient standpoint.
Exactly. So one time I did get a Dyson Airwrap, and I gave it to a friend because I already had one. And then I got and they didn't want them back once you use them.
Right,
I was
right,
like, are
right.
you sure? So I gave it to a friend. But I also got this device. It was actually really cool, but I could see how it would damage hair mechanically in the long run. You basically stuck your hair into this, it looked like a mini vacuum cleaner, but like the
Yeah.
old kind, like the Rainbow or the TriStars,
Sure.
where the canister's separate, and then you have the attachment where you would,
So it
drag
sucks-
this canister around.
It sucks the hair into
It sucks the hair into the attachment, totally uses this forced air
Yeah.
to suck all the water from it. And then
Okay.
you pull your hair out and it's totally straight and smooth.
Wow.
It was incredible. It really worked. And it was actually a very fast process to use. But I could see where your hair would get mechanical damage from just the force of the air
Sure.
blowing past it and it being wound really tight into the device to get it to be straight.
Yeah, yeah. You know what that your description reminds me of? A product called the Flowbee.
Yeah.
It was as seen on TV, and you could cut your hair with this Flowbee.
It was kind of like that, but without the cutting. Yeah, and
Oh.
I really loved it, but I had a friend who borrowed it and loved it, and I was like, you can keep it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. All right. Let's see. She had a few questions here. How does it compare to mechanical damage of blow drying? We already talked about that. Will the average
Well,
heat...
in terms of how it compares a blow drying wet hair with a brush, yeah, the heat is going to be more damaging for sure.
Right.
But if you get mechanical damage, I think it depends what you have on the hair. Because if you have a lubricant or some kind of leave-in styling, you may get less damage from the mechanical aspect, but you'll probably get more heat damage. They're two separate
Right.
types of damage.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the blow drying is involved. There's heat involved in blow drying too, I guess, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. And then, will your average heat protectant provide slip to the hair to help against mechanical damage?
It depends. If you're using like an iron spray, I don't think you get as much slip and glide. I think you would need like a leave-in cream of sorts
Yeah.
to
But I
reduce
think-
mechanical damage.
But I think, like the product we just talked about, it has the coconut oil in it, but it has the amodimethicone. And if something's coating your hair with amodimethicone, you're going to get protection from mechanical damage.
Yeah, so that the Mizani product, would be a great product to
Yeah.
try.
Best heat protectant to apply to hair.
Well, the best way, I mean, it really depends. It's what you're going to saturate the hair with. If you're using a cream and if you're using a cream and equally distributing it down the hair fiber, that's going to be great. There are a lot of sprays. You mentioned you use the Kenra Platinum spray. Sprays are nice because they use, small droplets to distribute, but do they get everywhere? I think you have to saturate it pretty good.
It's harder to spread around a spray because you're not. A lot of times you just spray it and then not do anything, but with a cream, you're going to put it in your hair and rub it through, so it's going to get more distributed better.
Yeah, and then the iron sprays, you might think, okay, well, those are sprays. Those are probably worse too, but actually, when it's aerosolized, you get a lot of distribution, and you tend to go up and down the hair fiber. So I think you get a decent enough coating with aerosol sprays.
Yeah, aerosols. Yeah, spritzes are probably the hardest one to get the best distribution.
Exactly.
Valerie, look at that. We've got an audio question all the way from Babette in the UK.
Hi, the lovely Beauty Brains podcast team. I'm Babette. I'm from London. Hey, Perry and Valerie. I'm a long-time fan. I've been listening for years, like way back when it was Randy on the team. And just want to thank you guys, firstly, so much for everything you do. You're so generous with your time and expertise. So today is the first time ever that I've called in with a question. And it's about a specific face mask. So my skin naturally is quite sensitive, and this face mask, when I use it, it just transforms my skin. I mean, it's unlike anything I've ever used before. So if my skin's really dry after a flight, or if it's just having breakout, it's looking a bit dull, and it's just, your skin's a bit meh. And I use this, and it's just, even the day after, it's like incredible. And this is just quite a cheap face mask as well that I picked up in a Watson's beauty store in Hong Kong. So the brand is Korean. It's called Mediheal. And I'm just wondering what the magic maybe ingredient is in this, or if it's one of the key ingredients, because I can't find this face mask anywhere here in London where I now live. And I'm trying to find maybe a similar beauty product that could work as well, or if it's one specific thing in it that my skin is really that my skin really loves and wants more of in this face mask. So any insights you have or any advice would be so appreciated. So yes, thank you both so much. And please say hi to all your lovely pets, little doggy, and I love hearing its little tippy toes in the background sometimes for the recordings, so cute. And all the porch kitties, of course. Thanks, guys.
Valerie, I didn't know the audience heard your dogs.
Well, I think they used to hear my old dogs a lot. Clickety-clack, clacking around. And it's like, get out of here. Butch and Frank, we try to kick them out when I'm recording because they're so big. They try to get in your face.
They do.
And Butch has an absolute meltdown when I talk to the computer.
Oh,
he just
really?
goes and curls up in a little ball somewhere and gets so upset. And then he gets so happy when I get off. Because he's like, oh, she's free. She's not crazy.
I wonder how he's going to be with the new baby.
Well, they won't be alone with him, that's for sure, because they could suffocate him.
Oh, really? Wow.
Well, they're very big. They're like almost 90 pounds and very furry.
Yeah. Well, I think they usually work out all right with dogs.
We'll see.
New kids. Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, back to the question about this mask. It's always amazing when you find a product that seems kind of mundane, like there's a ton of them, but then you find just one that works better than anything else you've ever used. I can't personally say that this has ever happened to me because I don't really notice much different. I notice some subtle differences like in shampoos and stuff, but everything at the end kind of just works for me anyway. But how about you? Are there products where you're just like, oh, this is amazing, and you can't really figure out why it's amazing?
Well, I would say in hair, I can always deduce why, because I'm so fine-tuned to how ingredients interact with hair and knowing what hair types things are better for. And so I can more tell if I liked something or didn't like something. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that. I always try to guess I think this ingredient is in there. But that comes from years of training. Sure. On the skincare side, I would say I'm more flabbergasted sometimes, where I'm like, wow, I really like this. And it's just like an ordinary product. And I'm slowly, starting to get the hang of it and trying to guess by feel, what water thickener did they use and all that. I know I don't like the feel of xanthan gum, that kind of stuff. But Sometimes a product just feels really great and it just goes really great with your skin, especially in the season that you're in, because skin changes seasonally.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you just say, wow, I love it. And you look at the back and there's nothing special about it.
And that brings us to this ingredient list from this Media Hill product. So it's really just a lot of humectants. It's got glycerin, sodium hyaluronate, we got panthenol in there, we got niacinamide in there.
Betaine, hydroxyethylurea, glycerith 26. These are all power humectants.
Yeah, aloe juice. I'm looking in here, I don't see anything that would say, oh, well, it's definitely that ingredient.
No, it even has beta glucan, which is really great for skin. It has arginine, glutamine, 2 amino acids that there's more amino acids in it, but those are amino acids you don't need a lot of to have some kind of positive benefit on skin and hair, actually. And so what I think it is, this product just has a lot of different types of humectants, basically, and I could see where if you had enough of the right humectants, your skin would feel pretty good because it feels plump, it feels soft.
Well, I also think that, you maybe have never used a product that has this exact blend of this many humectants and this kind of thickening system. And so there's going to be a sensorial difference to you. So it'll feel different when you put it on. It could have its own fragrance. Often just the fragrance makes you feel better about a product, so it makes you feel like it's working better. And with a lot of these masks, I think it's the experience of going through and using it, and if that's pleasant, you take it off, and you just are going to notice your skin better. Even though if we did measurements like transepidermal water loss, or we took a corneometer and measured it, we wouldn't be able to show you some way that it's different. So I think that's probably mostly what's going on here, since there's no one ingredient I would say is doing it.
Yeah, very hard to say, but that's great you found something you enjoy. That's the most important thing.
Exactly. All right, moving right along, we've got a question from Janie.
Oh, this is a big one. Look at Janie sneaking 3 huge questions in here. Hi, Valerie and Perry. I love your show and all the kitty updates. I've been wondering 3 things about sunscreen and would love to hear your expert opinion on the matter. Sunscreen directions will usually say wait 15 minutes before exposure. Does it really take 15 minutes of sunless time to settle in appropriately, or is that just so you don't get sun damage before it's in full effectiveness? In other words, if one goes in the sun 5 minutes after application, will it affect the efficacy for the next 2 hours?
Okay, well, I think sunscreens work once you put them on, like immediately. It's when you spread it on and it's forming the film like immediately. So this wait 15 minutes, I think that is just, I'm not really sure why somebody came up with that, but I don't see a really like a scientific justification to it, because once you put the sunscreen on, it's working.
Do you think it has to do with the SPF testing protocols where they apply it, let it dry down, and then they initiate their SPF testing, and so therefore that's the way the study was done, that's the way consumer directions are advised?
This is why we get these insider look at the industry, because yes, that's probably exactly where it comes from, right? Because that's going to be the protocol, just to ensure that everyone who's testing their sunscreen is doing it to the same level as everyone else. Because I could imagine if you put it on right away and it's still moist, the film has not set completely. So when you let it evaporate off after 15 minutes, like all the excess water is going to, so then you're going to have the film on there as solidly as it can be. So that's probably exactly why they do that.
So I think you're going to be fine. The most important thing is you're applying it when you're out there. Just in my mind, I've been so trained, like put it on inside and then go out. But you're still going to get SPF protection. Right,
yeah. I mean, I've got to the beach and then you sit on the towel and then you put it on there. And
the only reason I don't like that is if the sunscreen's hot in the bottle. That grosses me out. Nothing's worse than putting on a hot lotion. Ugh.
Oh, well, the one thing I don't like about it is, like, you're doing that, and then, of course, there's sand everywhere, so then you're just rubbing sand on your arms and such.
I know. Ugh. Anyway, so I think that should be fine. Are there ingredients that will interfere with sunblock application? I've been using a few serums before I apply sunblock and added azelaic acid and silicone by The Ordinary to the mix, but I got some pilling. The silicone mixture is very smooth and film forming, so I wondered if it would interfere with the absorption of the sunscreen. The sunscreen I use is a chemical sunscreen, La Roche-Posay UV Mune 400.
Well, if you're getting pilling, that means the film that was on your skin is rolling up and coming off. So I think, yes, that would interfere, right?
Yeah, I probably would not apply that specific product underneath your sunscreen. I mean, a simple serum that's moisturizing the skin is fine.
Right.
But if it is forming that layer, you're noticing the pilling, it's probably a pretty big pass.
Yeah. And some people have suggest, like with these, the organic chemical sunscreens, they're supposed to absorb into your skin, and so they're in a little lower layer than the surface to provide protection. But that's not really the case. It's on the surface layer, and it goes a little bit lower, but it's still on the surface too. So yeah, if you're getting pilling, I think that's going to mess up your sunscreen effectiveness.
And as an aside, I am prescribed azelaic acid for rosacea, and I put it on at night. I don't know if there's necessarily a benefit to putting it on during the day. So I would switch that one tonight, and then on daytime, keep your SPF with a simple hydrating serum underneath.
All right, one more question here.
Will a hydrocolloid patch offer any sun protection? I like to apply them to freshly washed skin, but this skin also benefits from sun protection since it's healing. Does a patch suffice? Thank you so much. I look forward to listening every week.
Well, as far as the patch go, I think it depends on how the patch is made. Because I could see if it's opaque, it's like physically blocking the light coming through. So yeah, it could do that. But if it's like a transparent or semi-transparent one that's made out of like cellulose or glycerin or pectin or something like that, then UV can certainly get through that.
I tried to find where this information comes from because a lot of online resources, including other science communicators, say that the patches can offer some innate UV protection, but I actually couldn't find any literature out there about it. There were a couple papers that looked at specific ingredient combinations on patches for UV protection, but not the actual patch material itself. So I would just hate to assume that it does, and I would just assume that it doesn't.
Yeah,
better to be safer than sorry.
Right, it's safer to assume that these do not provide much protection. If they provide any, it's not much.
I wouldn't think it was significant. So hopefully that answers your questions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janie.
Yeah, thank you. And that leaves us time for one more question. Hello, Beauty Brains. I recently read a Wirecutter review of red light masks to restore collagen and listened to a podcast based on the article. This sounds like the ultimate hoax. She sent links separately. Thank you for being the guardians of truth and justice in the beauty industry. And I included the article. And so this is from the New York Times Wirecutter.
And right up top, they say, we do independently review everything we recommend. P.S. We may earn a commission when you buy through our links.
Oh, right. And I think that is the key. So getting you to click on these links and buy something is how they make money at that. But you know what? A publication has got to get funding somehow, and they do it through advertising. So what do we have here? And now, as far as this being the ultimate hoax, it seems to me in the beauty industry there's a lot other hoax that might be more ultimate. But.
Well, they do say at the very beginning of this article, like, yes, it seems like using it would be beneficial for firmness and fine lines, but really they're best at providing relaxing self-care moments.
Yes.
Which I'd say is where a lot of the benefit comes from. Now, red light has been heavily studied. You can find tons of papers. There's laser therapy journal publications where they look at different colored lights like blue light, which is good until you get too much and then it's not good. Red light, green light. There's all types of different colors of the visible light spectrum that have been evaluated in different LED light therapies. And they're at very specific wavelengths, though, that these are studied at. And so if your device is not holding that wavelength or the wavelength range is really broad, I don't know if you can extrapolate from the study to the device, but
Right.
also a lot of these articles are done by the companies or people
Well, yeah.
who have been funded by the companies. So it's hard to say for certain. Of course, they show positive data, but it's like over 12 weeks. It's using the device twice a day for a certain amount of time. And, they're typically looking at photo damage. They're typically looking at periorbital wrinkles around the eyes. And a lot of it is,
That's actually my full name.
oh, wow.
Periorbital.
I should have seen that coming. Oh, goodness. So essentially, it's hard to say what's happening, but some of them, the way the efficacy is graded, they actually use scientific instrumentation. Other times it's like patients reported, right? So it's more of like
Right.
a feeling, but tons of papers out there you could look at going back almost 20 years. So it's not a new area of study.
So as far as an office treatment goes, as far as these home ones do, I'm skeptical that somebody is going to be diligent enough in using these every day for a certain amount of time to get the benefits that you might have got in some study. So that's much more difficult. But I wouldn't say that it's like a huge hoax that they don't work at all.
I would agree with that statement. Now, the professional grade instruments, like anytime you go get laser done at a med spa versus a dermatologist's office, there's a huge, huge difference in the quality of equipment and the attenuation that these devices have to hold a very specific wavelength time and time again when it pulses your skin. And so, yes, in the home device sector, for sure, I would agree there's also a difference in quality. And the thing is, like, the home devices aren't that inexpensive. Imagine how expensive the really professional ones are.
Right.
In like a med spa, even versus a dermatologist, they're very different. The other thing is, I wouldn't doubt that people would be so dedicated. I would think that there are people who are dedicated, regardless of whether they see the results, they do it. Now,
Yeah.
is that the most common segment of people? They're plugging it in every single night, religiously using it. I would say no, people are more sporadic.
Right.
But even if you did use it diligently, would you notice a difference? That's what I don't know, and I would say from conversations with my friends who've invested in these devices, it's more of like a beacon of hope.
Right. Yeah, I personally don't think you would notice anything, even if there was some measurable effect that you'd have in a laboratory when you're controlling everything. I think for a consumer, they're going to notice much more than when they put on their favorite cream at night, and that's going to have much more impact than something like this, which may or may, because you're not going to just use this and then not use anything else on your face either, right?
Exactly. I always found it interesting when I went to go get facials that they would put these lights on you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I'm not going to use it at home. Right. And this 5 minutes of exposure, by the way, through, like layers of gauze and like tissues and fluid. Yeah. Like, I just don't know that it's doing anything. It creates a really nice atmosphere, and I'm sure under the right conditions there is benefit, but I always found it interesting. Like, I'll just write it out, even though my preference is let's just skip this part.
Yeah. Well, I have to say this whole thing, this whole article reminds me of, it just reeks of like marketing storytelling, where they have all these specifications about how many LEDs are there and what are the specific wavelengths, and it's like they're trying to blind the consumer with all these numbers and information to be it's like buying a car or something. But to me, it's like, what is this? This isn't very helpful. It's just trying to confuse people and make you think that you're getting something, when at the end of the day, are you going to use this for a couple of months and notice anything new about your skin? I highly doubt it.
Or a difference between a device with 72 LEDs or 480 160 tri-wick LEDs.
Right. Marketers love numbers because to people, you see a number, oh, this is 10 times better. Well, this is 12 times better, and that 12 is bigger than 10, and so it must be better. So it tells that story without actually having to say that.
I'm like, I don't know. Should I get one?
You are LED curious, huh?
Well, I'd be interested to, like, if I could somehow cover up half of my face, I would be willing to do this.
Okay.
And I would put the mask on.
Well, that would make for some great content. And, while you have the little baby there, you're just holding the mask on, feeding the baby. And
could you imagine him looking up and seeing mommy with this mask on? Oh, my gosh.
Speaking of masks, do you hear that music?
We've got to go. Thanks for listening. If you get a chance, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That's going to help other people find the show and ensure we have a full docket of beauty questions to answer.
And speaking of questions, you heard Babette talk. Her voice was on the show because she recorded her question and sent it to us at thebeautybrains@gmail.com. You can do the same. And, those are not AI-generated voices. That's an actual person there.
And we'd like to prioritize those over our patron questions because if you have the confidence to share your voice on the show, we say we got to get it on.
Yeah, we will. If you record something and send it in, we will put it on there. Well, it's got to be a question, of course.
And it has to be appropriate content.
All right, that too. But having said all that, if you send it in, it gets on the show. You know what? The Beauty Brains are also on Patreon. We're not doing articles or segments called the best red light therapy. Go buy these things like the New York Times.
And get us commissions from our affiliate
Right.
links. Although, should we?
Like on the website, I feel okay to do like affiliate links if it's just a Google ad thrown on there. But I would feel bad if I sent out a newsletter and said, "Hey, buy this thing." I don't know.
Yeah, it's not for us. It's not who we are.
But these shows are not free to produce, and to help cover costs, we actually are on Patreon. So if you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/thebeautybrains and subscribe at any level. You get a transcript of the show, and you also get your questions a higher priority than everyone else.
Also, don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts. On Instagram, we're at The Beauty Brains 2018. On X, we're at The Beauty Brains. On Bluesky, we're at The Beauty Brains. We have a Facebook page and a TikTok.
Yeah, well, Valerie, thanks again for the show.
We had a great time. Hopefully we can get one more in before baby comes.
Yes. So we'll try to do that.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for listening. And remember, be brainy about your beauty.
Thanks, everyone. Kittens.